So it has an unknown, it has a hidden calculate. It would look like this, for example. I can just show it this way. See, so there is a calculate that is wrapped around this expression. That's why it's doing a context transition. You can use a measure directly. So hope those two problems were clear. So we had ranking problem. We had a look at how to use the correct table function and do the context transition using a measure. Okay. Let's have a look at problem number 5. This is a common one. Okay, the question is calculate 10% sales commission for each salesperson who have achieved sales over 7 million, right? So I have the salesperson and the total amount of sales they have generated. So I need to calculate commission. Anything above 7 million, I need to calculate, right? So the amount, looking at this table, I see the amounts are correct here, right? 10% of this. Here it's not calculated since they haven't achieved it. The problem lies in the grand total. You see, grand total is not a sum of all these 3 salespersons commissions, right? It's giving just 10% from the grand total, which is not correct. So this is a total problem. So how do you handle this? Before we go and solve the problem, let's have a measure. Let's have a look at the measure. Okay. Now, the way I have created the measure is pretty simple, and it says, okay, if the total sales, I mean this particular sales here, is greater than 7 million, then total sales into 10%. Perfect. This works on each line fine, but when it comes to total level, what is the total sales here? The total sale is 63.9 million. But I don't want that amount. I just need a sum of all these 3 numbers over here. In that case, what should I do? I have to on each and every salesperson and calculate the sales amount, right? These 3 amount and add them up. That means I need to iterate, right? When you think about iterating, there are functions in DAX which you can use to iterate over, do the calculations. You can iterate and sum, average, get the max, min. So they are called iterator functions. In this case, we will use sum x. Sum x basically will do a sum if sort of operation like that. So you need to sum over what salespersons in this case, right? I use values. Let me explain why I use values. Sometimes you would be confused. So what kind of function should I use? There are like all selected values. So values, let me explain after I do this. So I need to iterate over each salesperson and calculate, right? Now what I'm doing is when you iterate, you are going to the first salesperson and calculate the total sales amount. So that will produce this 8.9 million and check if it is greater than 7 million, then calculate the commission, right? So now when this commission is calculated, that is stored in the memory, right? Okay, let me close this. And it goes on for each and every salesperson, and you will have a table where you will have a salesperson and the commission, right? So you will have the first 3 salespersons commission here. Now, the last task SumX does is it will add all these up, right? So then you will get only the eligible values. That's how SumX works. Now, if you confirm it, you get the correct amount now, okay? Because at this level, it is iterating over all these salesperson, adding only these 3 values, okay? Now again, going back to the table, values will bring only the value that is there in the current filter context, right? So currently, if you are iterating over this, it can see only this particular value, right? Values will give you, but if you are here, the total levels, it will give you all the salesperson, but it's iterating each and every salesperson and getting the amount, eventually it is adding up. So that's why you are getting the correct answer here. So here what you learn is, when you have a grand total problem, check what is the filter context you are working on. So mostly it comes down to an iteration. In this case, a sum x. Yeah, now we'll go on and have a look at our sixth problem. So next couple of problems are going to be solving percentages. So let's have a look at the first one, problem number 6. Okay. Now again here, percentage of total shows segment sales as a percentage of its respective category. So what I have done, I put product categories. There are two categories, A and B. Under each category, I laid out the segment. So I have the total sales for each segment. I need to calculate the percentage over its category. So for example, if you take 15.7 million, that represents 43% of the total from its category, right? Category B, and so on. It's the same thing. When you look at my screen, the percentages are correct, and at this level is the same amount, so 100%, this works fine. The problem comes up, however, when you filter. Let's say you don't want to see all the segments, but you want to see a selected number of segments, right? So let's say you want to see channel partners, enterprise, and government. Now still, this is showing 43%, right? Earlier, when we did not filter, we also saw the same percentage. So what's going on here? Yeah, the 43% is not calculated based on this 22 million, which is the sum of only these three values, right? Rather, it is calculating from the grand total. That includes mid-market and small business, everything, so which is wrong. So whenever I select the segments, it has to calculate only for what is selected. So here also you should see the 100%, right? Then we'll have a look at the measure that has been built. Okay. So basically you need to divide here, right? Division has two parts. First, you need the total sales, the particular sales, and divide it by the category sales. The denominator has the total sales, and the denominator has to get the total sales. So on any given row, if you want a total, then you need to manage the filter. You need to modify the filter. Now, I'm using the same measure, which is total sales, but I use calculate in this case. So why do I use the calculate here anyway? So calculate has another function to modify the filter context. Now, in this context, now, if you calculate the sales amount over here, let me grab only this value, right, from here. And just to show you, I'll create a new measure. Let's call it all segment sales. I can add this measure to my table. Now what we are looking at is the total sales, right? Regardless of this, what I have here is the segment, but it doesn't show the segment sales. It shows the sales for the total sale is shown here. So why is that for this particular category? The thing is, now I am clearing the filter from segment. So the calculate can remove the filter from segment. Okay. So in this case, what I need to see is only the segment sales that are related to this particular category. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using all, I'll say all selected. All selected means it will clear the filter from only what's been selected, right? That means what is selected over here. So it will clear the filter only from these three, what is selected. If you use all, what happens, it clear the filter from all the values. Then the amount is going to be bigger than that. So it will give the overall total. So now if you use this one, Now let's say you get the total over here, right? So 36 is 36, and if you select 2, right, these three, now you get 22 and 17 all the way here. So this is what we are supposed to use. Let me remove this measure that I used to explain this concept, and let me go back. So you have to be very careful when you use this all and all selected. In this case, you don't want to clear the filter from all, but only what is selected, right, on the slicer. Now, if you confirm this, our measure should give the correct answers. Yeah, now it's giving the correct answer here. The result is correct. So even if you remove the filter, that works fine. Okay, let's move on to our next percentage problem, which is number 7. Okay, here in this case, I have another problem. I'm looking at the same kind of question. So I have the category and the segment. I have the sales. So I need to calculate the segment sales as a percentage of its category. I have done a measure, but it's giving me 100% everywhere this time, right? So let's go and look at the measure. So here it's I'm using basically a variable to calculate it. So first, variables makes your code like easy to read, and most of the time, performance-wise also, it's good if you use variables. Now, first, the target is like divide the total sales, right, by the total sales for all segments. That's the idea here. So I assign 2 variables. Total sales is assigned to the total sales measure, right? Then I calculate the total sales again for all segment by removing the segment. How did I remove the segment on the filter? Using all selected. Now we saw that in our previous example. Now in this case, why I am not getting this correct amount here? The problem is here I am not using a measure. I am using the variable assigned values, the variable. So one thing you should understand, when you use a variable, assign a value, that becomes a constant, right? So instead of using variable, you need to use a measure here. So now whatever modification you apply will affect this calculation because this has a link to the data model. So in the previous example, if you, I mean, originally what I had was just the variable. It's as good as a hard-coded value. Okay, so don't use variable inside calculate to evaluate. Okay, so let's have a look at the results now. Okay, great. We'll look at our next percentage problem, the last one in this series. No, I have again percentage, but this time I have year and month. So here the task is to calculate the percentage for each month. The sales percentage for each month should be as a percentage of the year total, right? Monthly sales as a percentage of its respective year, I would say. So now here also I'm getting 100%. Let's have a look at the measure. I'm using variable this time, so total sales, this is fine. So last 2 measures we learned 2 things. So we applied whatever mistakes we made, right? So we use variables, fine, and I calculate the total sales for all months, right? I need to remove the filter. I use all selected, not all. I did not use a variable here, right? I use the measure. So this looks perfect. Now it should give me the correct answer, but still I see 100%. Okay. One thing that I like to explain here is this all selected is clearing the filter from the month name. Okay. To explain this, let's go and have a look at our calendar table. That is where this month name is coming from. This is my dates table. Okay, now here I have month name, right? If you look at our report, before the month was organized January, February, and March, right? So to get that sort order in Power BI, you need to have a supporting column, right? Here I use the month number at the supporting column to sort this month name, okay, using sort by column. If you see, if you click on this, you have sort by column. I am using month name to sort it. So whenever you clear the filter from a column, you also need to make sure you clear the associated sorting column as well. So in this case, this month name is sorted by the month number. Let me go back to my measure, and where is it? Yeah, it's over here. And I am clearing the filter from month name. Also, I need to include the month number. Now let's have a look at the result. Now it's giving the correct answer. Why? Because I cleared the filter from both month and month number. So make sure you always apply, otherwise you would not notice these calculations coming up, right? The users will be looking at wrong numbers. Okay, fine. Let's have a look at our next example. This is the 9th one. Okay, this is an interesting problem. So I have my products over here and the total sales. Then here I need to calculate percentage of product category, right? Calculate product sales as a percentage of related product category, keeping only product. Now, if you add the product category, let me go and add the product category over here. Expand this. See, now this is giving the correct answer now, right? Let's have a look at these numbers. So 9.5 million is Amarilla sales. It's 34.36. It's calculated of 27.6 million, so which is correct, right? But the same thing I have as a chart here. If you see, it's giving Amarilla is giving 34.36, but I have the category also over here. If you see, I have the category as well, right? Because I have included both the category and product. That's why you are getting the correct amount. But if you remove the category, it will not give me the correct answer, right? 14.8 is as a percentage of its grand total for all product categories. So the challenge is, even without having the respective product category, I should be able to calculate the correct amount. So that way, this chart will look nice. You don't have to always include the product category. Okay. Let's have a look at the measure that has already been there. So I'm calculating the total sales over here, and then I have a second variable where category sales, right? In this case, I take the total sales and remove the filter from the products. So if I want to calculate the category sales, I remove the filter from the products, then I should get the category sales over here, which is fine. But for this to work, once I remove the filter on the product, I should always have the category to be there. That's the reason you always need the category in your visual. To do it in a different way, I can just show you a different method. We use values in this case to bring the category, right? So product category, I just say by product category, right? And remove the filter on products. I can use remove filters to remove the filter from the product. What I'm doing here is I'm removing the filter from the products, but inserting the filter using values from category. So where can I find the category here in this case? Let's confirm and check our results is correct. Yeah, now it's giving the correct amount, right? 34%, and I'll go and remove the product category. Still giving me the correct amount, 34.36. So even in this chart, it's correct. So what happens is, in a table, when you filter values, now here it's looking at, let's say, 34.36, how it is calculated. First, umbrella sale is calculated over here. Then I'm dividing it by the category sales of this particular value. The umbrella belongs to a category, right? So I need to get the sales of that. To explain this, I can go back to the products table. Now, how did I get the category? Now, let's talk about umbrella here. That's the product I'm talking about, right? When this is calculating the sales for umbrella, how did I get the sales for product category? Because it's in the same table, so it's cross-filtering. Whenever you filter value, so it is filtering the fields in the same table, right? We are in the same table, so it's filtering the other columns, which is called the cross-filtering. So it's grabbing the sales for all category A that is related to this particular product. So that's the reason you are able to, using values, get from the filter context the value for that particular category. Okay. Now, this is a percentage example, and let's move on to the last one over here, the 10th one. Okay. Here I have another percentage problem, but this is slightly different. This is a bit difficult to understand, but let me try to explain as much as I can. So here I have products over here, then total sales, right? The question is calculate percentage of sales for units below 500, right? Now, here I have calculated sales below 500 units. Let's have a look at the measure so you can understand. This one. So I'm calculating the total sales and filtering the sales data table where the sales units sold is below 500. So essentially what I'm doing is in my table, sales data table, I'm just filtering this table for units less than 500. This is what happens within my calculation. Okay, then I want to sum these units. Okay, so here I'm applying the same thing, right? Filtering the sales data table where units sold is below 500. Then I calculate the total sales. That's why I'm getting a lower amount than the total sales, right? Total sales, this is sales, but yeah, the total sales, then here sales below 500 is lower than that. So it's 8.4 million in total. Now, the question is this particular measure. This is where it's not showing the correct amount. So here I'm supposed to get the value. That means this particular value over here should be divided by the grand total here. That is 8.4 million. Okay. So this is my numerator and this is my denominator. That should be in my calculation. Here I'm getting 100%. Let's go and have a look at it. Okay. So this is the result. So sales below 500 divided by sales below 500 for all products. So there are two variables. First one is sales below 500, which is the measure which I showed you, that this particular amount, let's say this 1.1 million. And the one denominator is like calculated this way. So I need to calculate the total sales. First thing is I apply a filter where units sold is below 500. Okay, that is fine. Since I need to see the total everywhere, right, this 8.4 million is supposed to come on each and every row here. I remove the product. So I remove the filter on the products. Then I'm not getting the answer, right? So the problem lies in this particular piece. Let me take it out from here and create a new measure just to demonstrate what it is calculating. So this is below 500 all products, let's call. Okay, let me confirm this. And add the measure. Now, if you look at it, I just wanted to see this 8.4 million to come on each and every row, right? Then only I can divide this particular sales by 8.4 million. But it is calculating the same amount as the total units below 500. It's not removing the filter on the product sales, right? If you go, and I think it seems this doesn't have an impact. Okay, let me explain what happens here. There is a concept called expanded tables in DAX. Now, first thing, I'm using calculate. What calculate does is before it evaluates this expression, it evaluates the filter arguments. So what is the first filter argument? So there is a filter over here. If you see, I'm referring to the sales data table, right? Now, what is this table? To explain this, let me take you to my model view. Let's have a look at how the expanded table works in DAX. Now this table has sales data table. This is what I am referring there within my filter, right? So if you see in my filter, I am referring this particular table, right? Now in DAX, when you do the evaluation of any calculation, if you refer to a table and it has a relationship to other tables, right? The one side of the relationship. So this is the many side of the relationship, means you have many, you have star here, right? And these tables get added to this particular table, right, that we are iterating. This is not physically added, but at the time of evaluation, this product will, all the columns will get added. And also the other table, dates table, all the columns, if you have 10 columns, all the 10 columns will get added here, right? And this will be a huge table altogether. So if you mention sales data, that means you are referring to all the columns of the sales data table, products table, and the dates table. Okay. Now, what is the effect in this case? Okay, let's go back to our measure. Okay, now in this case, I am saying, okay, filter sales data table. Now, when you say sales data table, it comes inside this filter after being after filters are being applied from the filter, right? Already, let's have a look at this particular amount before it's getting evaluated. Now, when you say sales data table, that is filtered by this particular product, right? Already this is filtered, okay, and then it is calculating the units below 500. That's why you are getting the same amount as this, okay. And you have another filter over here which removes the filter from products. Okay. Now you should understand each filter argument within calculate is evaluated independently. So this removing of filter doesn't have any impact on this filter argument. Okay. I can demonstrate that by commenting this. You can press Control \. Even if you remove that filter, sorry, I have a mistake. I need to remove the comma because I don't have more than one argument. Even if you remove the filter, remove filters argument here, you are not getting any impact. Okay, that's because this works on its own, affected by the filter context. Now, the problem is you should never filter the whole table because it gets the effect of the expanded table, right? Now, what you can do in this case, if you want to filter units sold, like remove the filter from only the column where I need to apply the filter, units sold. Now I am specific, like I explicitly mention, okay, remove the filter from the units sold. Okay, let's have a look at. Okay. Now I have the values coming up nicely. On each and every row, I have the same amount being repeated. Now I can divide this 1.1 by 8.4 and get the correct amount. Okay. So what we need to do is to go back to my measure over here. And one more thing, now if you look at this measure that I have created, within DAX, you don't have to mention this way. There is a shorter way to mention it. Apply this filter. This is a syntax sugar for this predicate. You can mention it straightforward, like sales data table, and you mention the table unit sold is less than 500. So in the back end, the background, it's applying the same filter I just showed you here. Okay, so this is very handy. So you can apply your filter this way, units less than 500. Okay. Now, if you apply this, you get the correct amount. Okay. So what I'm going to do is instead of applying the whole filter, okay, now I should get the correct percentages coming up for this measure. You see the percentages are correct now. Okay, so I don't need this particular measure. And if you see the example of sales below 500, even that one, I can change it. It doesn't have any issue, but it's still right now I am not modifying anything. So I can use the same way here as well. So this is the best practice. Now if you apply, so you're going to get the same results. So keep in mind, expanded tables are tricky to handle. So before you build your calculation, make sure you use the best practice, which is apply filter on columns, not on tables. Okay. So we have come to the last and the final example. Yes, that's the 10th one. Fine. So with this, I would like to share some tips on this. Have you got any questions from anybody? Uzair?
No, I cannot see any question in the chat window, but if there are, I will let you know.
Yeah, if they want to unmute and ask, this I'm available, please. Okay, then, so I can share some of the tips I have. So some best practices when applying DAX, please make sure you format your DAX code, right? Okay, when DAX is formatted, it's easy to understand, easy to troubleshoot. So there are so many tools to format it. I can recommend daxformatter.com from SQL BI. And if you have external tools, of course, you can use them like Tabular Editor, DAX Editor and all. And then make sure you have a good model. You know, it's very important to build a good model. So we always go for star schema. This will solve a lot of heavy lifting DAX calculations, right? You can make your DAX much easier to write. And then keep it simple. Don't try to come up with complicated DAX calculation unnecessarily, right? Keep it simple. DAX, you also have to keep in mind the performance when you write DAX. And use table name with columns, right? Not for measures. When you use a measure, refer to a measure, you see I always use like total sales, not with the table name where it exists, right? For column names, if you can use table and the column names. And user-friendly names and organize measures into folders. So you can have the names like, with space, without space, it doesn't matter. So you can give with space and readable, clear for the user with user-friendly names. And you can create folders to organize your measures, right? That will make your job easier, even for report developers. Use variables as much as possible for readability and performance. Then always use measures, build your own measures. Don't try to go with the implicit measures. That's very important. And then use explicit measures. Then filter columns, not tables, which I mentioned in my last example, right? Expanded table effect came because of using the whole table. Finally, use a DAX editor like Tabular Editor, DAX Studio to make your coding much easier and faster. Okay. So I think with that, Uzair, am I sharing my screen?
Yes, yes, your screen is visible.
Is it being shared?
Yeah, it's visible. I can see the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Great. Okay. So I am on to my last. If there is no questions, then we can wrap it up.
Just I cannot see any questions in the chat window. Yeah, that's I cannot see any question, but I have one question related to this. What do you suggest if we are putting any logic to the to our data model? Should we put that logic in the DAX code, or should we push that logic to, for example, to the database layer?
Oh, okay. Fine. See, if your logic is like context driven, like if the logic has to change based on the selection you make in your slice, let's say on your canvas, right? If it is changing, then you have to build it using DAX calculation so that you can get the filter context working there, right? But if it is something permanent, right? And that logic has to go into your source level, like you can do it within your database level. Okay, like for example, let's say you want to extract certain text from a full name, you want to get only the first name, right? The column, like those things are like ETL processes that you can do at source level, even certain logics that you, if you want to apply.
Okay. And for me, will you share your slide deck or link to this Power BI application that you were using during the session?
Yeah, I can share that. I don't have a problem sharing it. So how would you want me to share it?
If you can share the link in the chat window, then I can also put it in
Okay,
the, yeah.
fine. Okay, just a second. Okay, I share it.
Perfect. Yes, I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you so much, Fowmy, for such a great presentation on using DAX in Power BI and a number of things that we should consider while writing the DAX code. And thank you very much for your time. And I hope you will also join us next time on this forum of Microsoft Azure Pakistan community. Thank you
Yes,
so
Uzair.
much. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
thank you so much.
pleasure for me as well joining today and presenting for the first time, and hope your audience will be able to make use of this presentation in terms of DAX and Power BI. So if you want to get connected with me, then I have on the slide on my LinkedIn, right? My email is also there. And visit my YouTube channel if you like Power BI videos. You can learn a lot there. And website is excelfort.com. So feel free to get connected. And thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you, Zair.
Yeah, same to you. Bye.